I also have to apologize. I'm a little sick. The issues are related.
No, I
Um,
get that. No worries.
so
I
uh,
appreciate you coming out and
cool.
be willing to talk about, royalty free and your Kickstarter and your experience. I'm sorry, can I get your name?
Colin McIsaac.
Colin. Okay. So, what do you do for royalty free or the Kickstarter or for quadruple A games in general? Are you part of their team?
Yeah, so I'm the
Yes.
creative
Yes.
director. I
Okay.
basically started the studio as like a way to create royalty free for all. It had been kind of my dream project for many years, and eventually I just had enough good ideas and the chance to sort of actually get the ball rolling on it. And it's been making people smile pretty much along the way enough that those are like sort of the small milestone green lights to say, okay, well, we can keep investing. It's like the idea, the people liked the prototype. Okay, so we can make a bigger one. Okay, people liked that, so we can take it to Kickstarter and just sort of like see, how much we can roll the ball. That's right. People on the team have different levels of experience. Oh, can you hear? Can you not hear me?
My audio
Okay,
thing
cool.
was being read right there. It just didn't tell me that I was speaking. I
Well,
apologize.
and while we're here too, can you like a huge truck just rolled by, but I could close a window if there's a problem with sound.
Oh,
Did you
for
notice
you?
anything?
No, no. If that was
Okay.
for me as well, let me know, please.
No, no, no. I can hear you great.
Okay, okay, cool,
Okay,
cool. Just
so
making sure we have everything
sorry, remind
pretty
me the
good
question.
there. Um, Now this is Quadruple A Games' first game, right? Like your first launch, your first project.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is Quadruple A Games' first project. We're a pretty I'm pretty proud of the talent of the team here. We've got a couple programmers and an animator who have worked on released games, but
Yeah, your Kickstarter
we're a
mentions
very
that.
small core. Yeah, and we operate mostly on freelance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so between everybody, there is a nice portfolio of a guy did sound here and there, and a guy did animation on this game, and but there's I would say everything has been in the indie realm already, and no one's worked together as a team before. I've never made a game before, just straight up at all, which is kind of like the I'm trying to organize people who can help me deliver that final project.
No, I get that. Collaboration, teamwork, that in and of itself is a hard thing to do. I think that's probably something that's not given enough credit in the gaming field. You see the games, right? Whatever the project size is, whether it fails or succeeds with the team behind it, it's beloved or hated, but the credit behind it is, definitely something that needs to be talked about and the work that's put in. I think that's great. I want to hear about your time making this first game, your experience, and obviously your inspiration from games like Smash Brothers and maybe some other titles like the WB Brawler and then the Nicktoons Brawler that came out very recently. So that to me
Totally.
is very exciting to talk about. So, you know, what was the core, like the kernel idea? Where did that come from? Was AAA games maybe in development a little bit after COVID, if that's something you want to talk about, because I feel like that is an era that, was a time when people were being creative and working hard and being like inspired to try and get into the field, especially after when things like Smash Brothers stops making content and there's that kind of void where like the other, genre people or companies start making these other type of, spin-off games, and I think that's really cool to see smaller teams, strive for that in a way. So, from the beginning, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I mean, you were absolutely right that it was kind of a COVID imagination project,
Cool.
and The DNA of it goes back a lot further because I was playing Smash Bros, of course, in single
Of
digit
course.
age, and for hours, I've got thousands on Ultimate, and I've got, I mean, it's nuts. And so I'm always so, I guess, enthralled by the level of artistry that those teams are able to apply to a
Hmm.
feeling of nostalgia that I always had very young. Like, I was like 8 years old, like missing being six. Like, and so when I was like 12 and they brought the stages from 64 to GameCube, it's like, oh man, yes. Um, and they've just been nailing that feeling all the way through in bigger and bigger ways, like when they introduced like the music list instead of just one song per stage. And I mean, of course the music is phenomenal. That's a key part of what I'm getting at here when I describe this nostalgia. And so growing up, that informed, I guess, my artistic vision a lot uh more heavily than, like, I always thought it would be fun to do something like this. I was always, spending free time like making fan rosters and stuff. Um, and so, and also like music remixes, I would be like, it wasn't any good, but I learned a lot of music theory self taught that way and produced a lot of stuff. And it just lent itself to a, I guess I would say, an amateur skill portfolio. I'm still very much learning on the job here, but it lent itself to a skill set that um, I think positioned me nicely to be able to direct the art and the music and the programming. I'm definitely still learning, as that's the least background that I have already, but it's kind of a creative fuel to learn these practices more seriously, and also like a really nice baseline to know what is needed from a game like this just off the bat. I've watched the Mr. Sakurai YouTube channel religiously. I don't know how the timeline worked out, but I think before I came up with the game. Um, so then I'll speak more on the origination process there, about the COVID sort of lull in life. And there was a news story. I don't remember exactly what character it is. And I'll contextualize this also by saying I took an IP law class in high school. So it always just fascinated me, like the story of what goes on with copyright, and what are the do's and don'ts. I was always just kind of like intrigued by it, almost as a creative puzzle. And so I saw this story. It I forget who it was. I don't want to name who it would have been, but it basically said this character's entering the public domain. And that happens every year. Everyone makes a horror movie about it. And the way that my mind works, I thought it would be funny if someone made a platform fighter where as you said, there are all these other brands coming out and making their own crossover platform fighters. The one kind of umbrella that hadn't been touched and could be really funny to make a parody of the whole phenomenon specifically is public domain characters in this like royalty free parody battle game. And that idea was just so funny and captivating to me that I just kept having more ideas about what that would actually look like. That over the course of 3 years, I had enough of a portfolio and a vision of the game that I said, we can actually tool this up and try to pitch this somewhere. Eventually, we just found that we were working well enough as a team that, we can get this game cranking and we can deliver through Kickstarter. Um, so it's been a really wild ride, honestly. I'm learning every step of the way, and I feel really good about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, you guys have a demo on Steam, a playtest demo, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, I played it, and I'm gonna say it. It nails some vibes for me that I think are really nice and are like it's just nice to have an experience like this, especially just free to play for the time being, and
Yeah.
for people just trying to get into the maybe the platform genre. Free to play is really nice. It's just a nice, barrier of entry. And not only that, but the roster itself and the inspiration behind the stages and stuff, it's reminds me of the early 2000s Flash era games where things were kind of really indie at the time if you maybe have been on the internet playing those type of games. But to me, that's the type of love and care that's already put in, and it does play well. It plays like a platformer fighter. You have modes where you have like stock, timed, and all that stuff. We talked a little bit, or you mentioned a little bit about the visuals and the sounds and how that was a little bit of an inspiration for you when you're getting into that. You have you know, a team behind that, which is really awesome. The sound design is really sick with the music. I had a
Thank you.
blast. I would love to see that get onto the Switch. Obviously the handheld stuff is being very talked about lately, but
Yeah.
Steam is
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Us too. We that's the plan according to Kickstarter. These,
Dope, dope.
the registration process and the bureaucratic process of it takes a while to move. We're
I
not
bet,
in a
I
place
bet.
where we can really talk about that, but that's the
Absolutely.
plan. And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. Um, and yeah, it does all come together in a really nice way. Like it's designed to my personal taste that I think a lot of people, in my ballpark age share of, you're right, like this like kind of 2000s era animation. I grew up
Hmm.
watching, I don't know if anyone out there remembers a website called Albino Black Sheep. These
That
days I
is
really
news to
like
me.
stuff like Smiling Friends.
Okay.
Not necessarily a recommendation, because I know, there may be some younger, uh,
Yeah.
there may be a lot of parents buying this game for their kids, and that's not a recommendation to show their kids something like Smiling Friends. But um, I love this kind of zany, big, bold character design, and chaotic kind of energy, and stupid jokes too. Like we've got, you mentioned the roster. That's a whole conversation I'd love to get into, but for the purposes of this one, um, there's a guy named Oliver Twist, famous book by Charles Dickens, and one thing that we're doing here, this is kind of important to explain actually with this character, is that we are taking like archetypes from, human history, fairy tales, urban legends, ghost stories, stuff like that, old books, and we're reimagining them. We're putting a little twist on them. We're casting like key roles and like character archetypes. This is very nerdy backstory, but it's like it comes from an Italian theater tradition called Commedia dell'arte, where basically characters, and this is where the Harlequin character, who still very popular today, in
Absolutely,
some
absolutely.
iterations. That's where that character originated, like 600 years ago, and um, these characters would be cast in completely different stories, playing the exact same roles. So there's like a trope of like the lovers and the gluttonous like adult man and the like sad fool and stuff like that. And so I kind of wanted to cast uh, a variety of roles that all stood out from each other in that similar kind of way, who could also then play different characters in each other's stories someday. So, all that said, Oliver Twist came from the fighter idea of Jack and the beanstalk. You can see he's got a big beanstalk on his head. He is a magic bean. Um, but a key element to the Jack and the Beanstalk story, Jack used to be a diminutive name. It was like, dude or guy is now. So the story kind of translates to the boy and the beanstalk and not an actual proper name, Jack. And there's a lot of similarities between, the English sort of, you know, poverty and thieving, like, a poor boy stealing from the rich to feed, himself and his family, is basically very similar. And so I thought it would be funny if we made Oliver Twist and Olive Twist. All of that for this very dumb joke. And I've lost even the the answer here. But it's been a great joy designing the cast.
Yeah, I mean, your cast is insane. So I've played Dorothy, Sweeney, Mother Goose, Lilith, Lancelot, Nestle, Nessie, Oliver Twist, and Sakura. I will say it. My favorite and my girlfriend's favorite is Piglet. Piglet
Oh
is
yeah,
really fun.
the little pig, very good.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was actually a surprise baby. We were at PAX together as a team. Very valuable and rare team time. We're all remote, so it's you know there's some challenges, things getting lost in translation when you're working on different schedules and largely over text, and it's uh, you know it's been an interesting learning process in that way. Um, but we were all right there together getting stared down by a picture of that character that we put on Kickstarter to demonstrate our cameo backer reward. You can get in the backer rewards. There's late pledging enabled if anyone wants to join in. We've succeeded though. Um, a backer award where you can choose a public domain character to cheer you on, sort of Final Fantasy style. They like throw their hands in the air and say hi. Kickstarter was having trouble displaying images for whatever reason, and that one was like the only one it accepted, and it got plastered everywhere. So we were all at PAX demoing the game with this picture of this pig staring at us with these arms the whole way through, and we just kind of over the weekend. I mean, it was really, I think, my push. I fell in love with the guy, but everyone got on board really fast, and we realized, hey, he's so small, he's so simply shaped. If we keep this move set pretty simple, we can get this done before the end of the Kickstarter and kind of wrap it up that way. And thank God that was a magical play. I'm not sure we would have succeeded if not otherwise. Um, but he got like 30,000 views on YouTube. I mean, he's the best. I've always
Yeah,
loved that series as well. I mean, I grew up, you know, that pig has been my best friend for many, many years.
yeah, I've recently become a Winnie the Pooh enthusiast after meeting Hannah, and I even saw the we mentioned it previously, horror adaptations coming out of things now in the open domain. I enjoy those movies. I think they're fun and they're goofy,
Yeah.
right? It's a nice way of just enjoying new media. It's all, fun. The inspiration for the characters is really fun. What was the idea of making, or where did it come from for turning Sweeney Todd into a robot? Right, because I'm not a big Sweeney Todd fan, but
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. So if he is a robot and something I don't know about, that's kind of cool.
No, this is the first one. So this is a good example of like transforming these characters in a way that's like fun and fresh and silly. It actually comes from kind of a roundabout. Sorry if there's dogs out there.
Nah, don't worry about dogs. Don't even worry about it.
Okay,
Dogs
cool.
are cool.
Sorry, they distracted me.
That's cool. Don't worry about it.
um, he started actually, you know, we wanted to, well, this was really just me at the time doodling in a notebook, and I was trying to figure out, you know, an interesting way to portray Sherlock Holmes because, and this was a direct commentary on the state of that character at the time. Some stories had entered the public domain, but others had not, and I believe uh, this is not direct historical account. I am reciting what I recall. Um, but I believe at the time it was that the estate had argued and won in court that because that character had not shown human emotions until later stories, which were still protected, any portrayals that you know were based on this character without the permission of the estate had to make him like a cold unfeeling like robot of like a mystery calculator. And so I just leaned into that literally. And the designs I was getting for that felt a little uh like too weird almost. I basically, in this process of recasting like a character of Jack and the Beanstalk as Oliver Twist, uh I was trying to figure out like what other kinds of characters could be like evil robots. Sweeney Todd entered the picture, and it just all fell into place. You know, that gives you a bunch of like interchanging like gadget hands as a gag for all of the different barber instruments. It gives you like he himself can be like a living barber pole who like spins like an electric razor and stuff like that. I
Reminds me of
mean, the
Inspector
design all
Gadget
just
in
sort
a
of
way.
sure, yeah. And it's I don't know though, like toothpaste hair, it became a clear winner of a character at some point, which is ultimately how a lot of these guys eventually make it into the cast. We've got about, I would say, 30 more ideas cooking that are not no chance of making it into this game. I'd love to make a next project or continue with DLC if it's a hit, but our release plan roster is at the ready. And
No, I get
the
that.
point being, I'm really proud of all of these 9 characters are the real standouts to us in the crowd. Some like Piglet kind of worked their way in. Some Dorothy and Sweeney Todd. I mean, Lilith, Mother Goose. Actually, a lot of these guys were pretty much completely survived in their design from the 2021 versions.
That's awesome to hear, you know. I mean, obviously, just being able to put out something like this and turn it into something real is really amazing. So, you know, the hopes of a sequel or any kind of DLC, I think is awesome as well. I hope you guys get to have that kind of experience. Now, for me, I'm also doing the podcast just on my own, all kinds of things, but I try to read books and comics. So like there's a little bit of a bridge between video games and like the other media because people talk about like video games being original and there are things like maybe Expedition 33 or Silk Song like Mario, things that tell their own stories, but you guys have a character who may or may not be upcoming called Dante, and Dante is obviously inspired by a very old character, and he's
Yeah.
beloved in all kinds of media. We see things like Hades and God of War, things that take other kinds of inspiration and turn them into massive, beloved ways of experiencing those worlds and those characters in new ways. To me, things like even Marvel or other kinds of things like that, where they have the same kind of characters but new ways to experience them, I think that's still fun and amazing in its own right. So I think it's cool that we
Yeah.
have ways for people to take at least properties, media in some way, hopefully it continues, and just be able to express love and create things for it. I see things like, you know, Warhammer get flack or people trying to create anything online with just original assets, even their own stories or whatever. I think that's a little sad that, you know, just because you're in a company and you own something and you made it for so long, 20 plus years, someone else also tries to contribute. To me, to maybe like squander that or squash that is is disheartening to a massive degree. So like I want to try and promote this game specifically, royalty free for all, because it's just such a statement to, you know, I guess copyright or just being able to experience stories that have been told forever and maybe you know somebody who's been playing video games for a while or new to video games plays this game and is like I want to see what stories Lancelot is from or you know Nessie
Yeah.
and finally read
That's exactly the idea.
the I forget the name the big with the book whale the big whale um
Oh, Moby Dick.
Moby Dick
Yeah.
I have it on
Well,
myself we just
I
moved.
wondered once upon a time if Nessie should be a baby Moby Dick. Ultimately, Nessie,
Hmm.
I think, is more fun. I thought about having Moby Dick steer the ship that she's on. I don't think we're able to include that cameo, but you know. falling in love with ideas all the time. Can't be too
No.
precious about everyone because we got a game to release.
Yeah, absolutely. That's hard work, you know.
But yeah, I think one of the things that I loved about Smash Bros. Growing up, um, I, I don't do this anymore, I guess, because it's not really a feature anymore. But they had this trophy section, and they fully modeled all of these characters from, at that point it was 20 years. Now it's like 50 years of their gaming history. So I get why the the workload has become unmanageable. But they fully modeled everything and gave these like really interesting, very short descriptions, but interesting ones. And it was really a chronicle of their history as a portfolio of IP, which I realize is like, I mean, that's like a weird businessy way to put it, but you know what I mean? Like, I really loved every brand, like every world of games that they made. Like, I learned about, like, I can't name them all, like, because that'll take me forever. It would be an exhaustive list without any exclusions. And ultimately, I realized that that same kind of love for the total breadth of an entire work of like collective impact can be applied to these stories that are much much older and have been informing the world for hundreds of years. It's in a way copyright is a very new idea. And like I was, like those stock characters, people used to just cast the people just used to write stuff and make stuff, and it was all kind of publicly shared. This is philosophical and maybe ill-informed. I'm sure lots of like older civilizations had various means of, but ours is new. And
I think we adapt stories however we want to tell them, you know. I mean,
yeah,
if someone
I mean,
isn't alive to continue their own original work, who's to say that other people can't at least contribute, right? I mean, what's fan fiction? What really is, right? Um, you
well,
know,
right. I mean, and that's a great point because Lancelot
yeah,
is fan fiction. He was an active fan
right.
fiction on the King Arthur story, which is a big part of. I mean, obviously he's a good heavy fighter. Lancelot is like super, iconic, and um, but in terms of that heavy fighter, that slot was sort of considered like, should it be King Arthur? And ultimately, Lancelot became the character as a clear winner because he also represents this idea that people could just write whoever they want into whatever they want. And so he really symbolized the theme of the game in that way.
That's awesome to hear that, like, you know, some of the characters are inspired and just taken to such a degree of inspiration. And to be honest, they play really well. I mean, they're all unique, which is something you don't always see in some games, is where some characters
Sure.
are maybe kind of clones of the other ones, or they play somewhat similar to maybe fit like play styles or archetype kind of deals. But I mean, Piglet's moves feel like we just took all the other characters and made Piglet be able to do that. Like Tigger's bounce, and he has like the 100 Acre Wood bat swing. I thought that was really cool. So playing those characters was really fun. It really reminds me of,
Thank you.
in my opinion, I don't know if you ever watched Alpha Rad on YouTube,
Oh,
but
I know the name.
okay,
I think I know who that is.
yeah, yeah, just a YouTuber. He had a series where like he did a Smash CPU tournament where like he voiced over it like it was a WWE match, right? And for me as a
Oh
kid,
yeah.
I did that all the time. When I played Melee, like all kinds of fighting games, I was like, I just like tournament style, make your own kind of story type nonsense. And to me, being able to just make characters and make them fight each other and make people make their own kind of stories and experience with that is really awesome. And that's something that I want to treasure for video games or any other type of media that could be out there or created. I think it's awesome, you know. I really had a lot of fun playing
Yeah.
royalty free for all. I want it on the
Thank
Switch.
you.
Being able to just play it like on the bed or on the go would be insane.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd also like, I'd even love to incorporate mouse controls. Like, I think I obviously huge fanboy, so like I want to, make it as satisfying for all of their like, fun hardware gimmicks this generation as possible. Um, and like I of course have to credit our gameplay programmer for the incredible like game feel that you're describing. I mean, it really just does feel completely buttery smooth. And with the characters' moves, we've only got 6. So we've been very deliberate that we uh you know make sure that each one's kit plays a different role of a gameplay, style. Lancelot's a heavy, Lilith is a zoner, Mother Goose is highly mobile, Sweeney Todd is like very lethal. So we wanted to make sure that you really felt that variety of characters when our resources are limited. I mean, we're operating at probably a fraction of the budget of these other games. We're trying to do something that I'm realizing is why everything else is 3D. The Nickelodeon brawler inspired me to go with this cartoon direction because, hello, they have all the original animation cells of these characters. What are they doing models? Now I realize what they're doing, using models. 2D is very
You
expensive and
guys
time
are
consuming.
hand drawn, correct?
Yeah,
At least,
that's
yeah, I
right.
mean,
Yeah, our lead
that's an
animator
awesome
Ivan
art form
is.
in and of itself. Like, kudos, congratulations, because looks
Thank you.
awesome, you know.
Yeah, his
Good.
his work is blowing me away. Think the he has succeeded in like honoring the characters that I've designed. I look at these guys and I like it really does feel like my own childhood like doodle notebooks, like done in a professional way. I never like he's remarkably wise at recognizing like what I'm trying to evoke in a character and adapting that, like just fully animates it. Like I so sometimes there's like posing notes and like, oh hey, like the timing on this thing isn't working in the game, so we got to adjust some things here. Of course there's animation notes that'll come in, but like I am floored by how authentically he understands and captures uh you know the tone that we're going for.
Yeah, I love it. And there's other little like small funny nods to, you know, plagiarism or all kinds of things. Like in your controller settings, you have the um the copyright free or something controller, and
Yeah, the legally distinct
it
controller.
looks like four N64 smashed together. Yeah, I thought that
Yeah,
was really fun. That's so charming. If you ever like,
thank you.
get a chance to do a physical version, I I think a controller like that in some goofy way alongside would be insane.
I have thought
Yeah,
about that. I think it would be a nightmare to produce, but
of
I've
course.
wondered like maybe we make a plush or like a keychain or something. Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I really like he's really funny. Maybe he's a character someday.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. So you guys got a lot of really cool things about your game already going for you. Already you're trying to get in your, small tweaks in there, make it a full product for Steam and get it out maybe on other platforms and stuff. But is there any type of ideas in the mix, or are you experimenting in some ways for other stuff? Because I think what's not given enough talk is the creative process and what teams may be devoted to at all times. I mean, from my experience playing video games since I could hold a controller, I've seen companies at some times take on multiple projects at like once. And whether or not
Yeah.
we see anything about gameplay or a cinematic trailer or they're just dead, I think there's maybe something about the creative process and what people want to do or they're forced to do. It isn't like talked about enough. So, it, is there any like time on the team to maybe explore maybe not mechanics that would be in the platform genre, but maybe like you guys are like, we have this engine. I believe um you guys use Harmony Premium. Is
Platform
that
Fighter Engine.
Platform Fighter Engine?
Well, we
Okay.
use we use Game Maker Studio, the
Studio.
LTS
Okay.
version, and there's a package called Platform Fighter Engine, which we've radically adapted, but it does an an incredible job setting up the legwork to get a game like this off the ground. Um, so it depends. I would recommend that for anyone who wants to dabble. But the kind of game that we've made, I mean, it's upscaled. The pixels for Platform Fighter Engine is a very small resolution game. It's sort of like a pixel fighter almost. Um, and
Awesome.
so, as a consequence of scaling it, we're aiming for 4K. When it comes to consoles, but as a consequence of that, we've had to again radically adapt a lot of the code and build our own features out.
I get that. That sounds like a lot of complicated work. That's something that's hard to do. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's just never really given enough credit is the physical manpower part of it. And, the creative process is one taxing part of the experience, right? Whether some people enjoy it or not. But obviously, just like any type of experience, it's not like playing video games, right? You're there in the trenches trying to make sure that what you want to do works, and if it feels fun to experience, to play, which is very taxing and hard. um, but what I wanted to try and get to was, is there anything maybe in the works, like in the future? Is there like any type of genre or like piece of gaming
Oh,
that
like a
maybe the
follow-up game?
team, in some way, maybe not a fighter or a platformer, but something that like, maybe the
Right,
team
right.
has talked about
Next
to,
project.
yeah, something like that.
We've definitely entertained fun ideas. There are a couple that seem like fun standouts to build, but ultimately, I think we have to see what happens with royalty free for all. Because I mean, it's a brand new studio. It's the first game. It's a major swing, and so we got to make sure that it sells well enough to keep that kind of ball rolling and make a follow up. So we're not trying to get too attached to any one idea and sort of build that out before we're sure we're able to. But there's a lot of fun stuff that is cooking around, and then obviously there's a natural kind of question as to like, oh, would we do like maybe yearly DLC packs or like seasonal ones or like ideally I'd like to make sure that all the character updates are free, but then maybe there's like then that's economically difficult. You can't just keep working for free all the time. So then there's a question of do we pack in like paid costumes with different events? Those kind of things are all cooking around for the longevity of royalty free for all, but we don't have a clear picture yet of what it's going to look like. When those sales numbers come in at launch and in launch season.
Something that I really enjoyed. I mean, we see it with games with skins and colors, but for a playtest demo for Royalty Free for All, you guys have, I think, more than 8 colors for each character. Some of them might be like maybe more stylized in some
Yeah.
ways, but I did see that you have a more like classic black and white cartoon skins for most of them. I thought that type of vibe was already insane. I don't know if every character already
Thank
has it,
you.
but from the few that I did get a chance to see, I think that like that type of addition is already enough to be like its own DLC pack or something. I don't think you have like a black and white stage or anything. You have Big Boat Willie, the steamboat. You have the steamboat
Oh, that
stage.
is the steamship.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously very inspired, right?
It's
Now,
a yeah. There's a lot of cartoons that take place on various kinds of steamboats. We thought it'd be fun to wrap a whole bunch of different stuff into one familiar setting.
yeah, I'm a
So
Kingdom
that's our
Hearts
black
head.
and white stage
Whenever
right
I
now,
see
but I know what you mean. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
the steamboat stuff, I
yeah. So
like
we
that
wanted
goes
to
to my
include
mind
like a
immediately.
black and white.
That's okay, that's
But
okay.
yeah, totally. I know what you mean, and I wanted to hit that vibe too. Like, you're right. There are some that are more like newspaper comics, just like pure black and white, like outlines. Characters. A piece of clothing might be painted black to shake it up a little bit. Yeah, we don't have obviously like a newspaper comic style stage or like an old black and white cartoon style, like slightly before the Steamboat cartoons. Um, that kind of just like pure black and white ink kind of art style. I think there are a lot of different stages that we've considered, and none have quite made the full way to release. Um, but that's a vibe that I wanted to evoke, yeah, because there are so many different artistic like means of expression over the years that, and there are a lot of newspaper comic characters that are going to be entering the public domain soon that already have entered the public domain. um, so it was a natural world to represent. And there's also these like grayscale versions of these palettes, that those fit in really nicely on the steamship stage. There's also we have the Big Little Shop, which is our stage based on the 1960 film Little Shop of Horrors,
Yeah,
which they never registered the copyright for it because they didn't think it would be popular. um, Fun fact, here we are, we get to have a little shop stage on our royalty free for all game, and to honor that, we've added a version of it that's just completely in black and white. That's accessible sort of semi
that is cool.
secretly, so
Yeah.
it's not there on the menu.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, so then the colors themselves, that was a real nice benefit of our animator. Ivan is working really hard making sure that every character is actually drawn not as you see them in the game and in the marketing, but with this almost like psychedelic like overlap of all possible patterns. So it's sort of like when you're actually in our animation files and in the game files, like all these characters are rendering in almost this like quantum superposition state. And then the game reads those colors out and understands how to uh, assign, okay, well, Dorothy's going to be plain, the Dust Bowl colored brown and yellow palette. She's going to be the blueberry colored blue palette. And I we found this piece of software that basically you take a sprite sheet. So we put, pictures of these characters in there and import it into the software. And that is a tool that we can click around and design new palettes sort of in real time and see what it looks like on all possible like versions of this character's movement, and then re-import that into the game. And so I basically had this attitude. I've been doing that directly and had this attitude of like the more the merrier. Like, why limit it to 8? And I think there is a little bit of like there's a valid point that it's like maybe overkill, but I think if you're using a controller, you can just, if you're trying to scroll all the way to the right, you can just sort of toggle the right button and right trigger and just keep hitting those back and forth until you get to what you want. It's not very hard. Um, so I think the more the merrier, and people have been responding with that attitude as well. But it was a big question before we debuted, just the sheer volume of those outfits, whether it was too much. But I think people ultimately also resonate with the fact that we use this as a way to create different dog breed patterns on Dorothy. We use this as a way to get different like fish features on Nessie. Like there are some with like catfish whiskers and little antennas, and um, like there's an axolotl outfit. That kind of stuff is really hard to achieve, and I think it's not for nothing. It really does bring value that people are noticing, which is I'm happy to hear.
yeah, absolutely. It was insane to see that I would scroll past 4, right? I think maybe 4 is a good amount just for a game of a smaller
Sure.
size for
Yeah.
you. And then like 8 is like maybe expected, but I saw that I think most of them have like 12. Like not just colors, but like,
Yeah.
different
Some have
skins,
almost
different
30.
additions. Yeah, that's
Yeah. I
insane.
really just have fun with it, and I want to be sure to reference as much as possible, as much sort there's pop culture references and there's like direct source material references. Like there's an Ahab Lancelot basically. It's tough to like do it for real, but there's a headless horseman Lancelot. There's a Santa Lancelot. So um, that kind of stuff is like I really just have an all inclusive attitude.
Yeah, I think that little addition to the game does miles for replayability, right? I mean,
Well,
what
thank
is
you.
it? Eight or so characters is really great because they all play so differently, and the stage count is
Right.
also massive. So the stage count offers already variety
Well,
along
I'm
with the
glad to
game
hear
modes.
that.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I
a
could
lot
see
of
this game
stages
being
haven't
something that is
survived the
played
full
a lot.
development from concept to finish. So I'm glad you. I'm worried about some of the things that I love that we've lost, but I'm glad to hear the stage count is satisfying. Yeah, we've got ultimately we've got 9 characters right now in the roster, and this was an amazingly generous move. We never dreamed of this. We literally it was literally like on our team. We said why not? Like we never expect this, but we put up a backer reward for $10,000. You could get a short list character, and that's essentially like these characters. Piglet was kind of our proof point. Can we do this in 2 weeks? If we can make a character in 2 weeks, like we can do this. And so we got then assembled this list of character ideas that were so simple in one way or another that we could circumvent a lot of development costs and actually achieve that for like a price that we can include on Kickstarter. Someone did do it, and so we've got a 10th character coming that I think people are going to be really excited about, and it's going to bring a lot to the game. And but one of my favorites to demonstrate is was an idea that was partly thought of for this purpose. How can we make a character that requires a lot less development time? And one was this idea of the wet floor guy, where there's this whole like the exit signs and the crossing the street guy. Like there's just that guy everywhere all the time, and those are called universal symbols, which means that essentially the world needs them, no one owns them because they're universal symbols. So we thought it would be fun to make a character out of that. Alas, uh, we will make an announcement for this fan characters selection when the time comes.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Colin, I had an incredible time getting to talk to you about your experience developing this game. I mean, to hear that the
Likewise, thank you very
inspiration
much for having me.
came from so early, obviously your childhood gaming career, but to see that like something like a worldwide event didn't squash. I think your team is 25 people, right? To see
Oh,
that it,
sheesh. That's an all-inclusive credits list. Yeah, so
okay.
that is the team. When you put it that way,
Okay, I
yeah,
saw on your Kickstarter, the team was 25 or so. Um,
yeah. No, that is right. I
yeah,
don't typically think of it that way.
I don't know if
In
you
the day to
saw
day, a lot of communications are. Yeah, what's that?
I don't know if you saw, but in the past there have been companies that may have forgotten to add in, inclusions, people, maybe contributed some way
Right.
to the project, right? And I think credit needs to be, earned for each person who did contribute in some way, regardless of how small, right? I think it's awesome. And to
Right, totally. Well, and there's people who are credited there who have moved on to other opportunities and moved on to other
absolutely,
things, and so this is truly just everybody who's put any amount in. So I'm in the day to day. I'm in touch with a smaller number of people, um, but of course, yeah. I mean, I believe everyone deserves the shout.
yeah, of course. Thank you for coming out and talking to me. I mean, I had a great time because you are my fourth developer that I've had a chance to talk to, which is pretty sick. My fourth guest. I'm pretty happy to see that there is such care for, I think, overall, like public domain media and just being able to access it,
Yeah,
experience it. Because the you guys didn't have to go the extra mile and do all the twists. You didn't have to kind of give each character's own spin or have such beloved music because like the music is just maybe for some
yeah,
games they're not super important, but to even have something in the background is something to be said. My friend does music for video games. I think it's awesome to see that there
yeah.
is
No,
such passion and it made it an awesome project.
thank you, and that's great. Shouts to the music team. Yeah, Josh and Chip, and we've also got David Wise from, just a legendary musician and video games, doing the menu music, the entertainer, by Scott Joplin. But Josh is and Chip are both smashing up so many different melodies. Like there, you sometimes you can't count on one hand how many songs are in like a 30-second character trailer. because they're just so deeply woven together. It's really a great joy, and they're both crushing it. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you as well. This is, I think, my first podcast appearance.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, it's been a joy.
I mean, I look forward to any updates you have on royalty free. I will be keeping updated with it. I backed you guys. I want to
Oh,
play
thank
this
you.
game. Of course, absolutely. Now, thank you for coming out. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time here. You guys got,
No, I'm happy
obviously, you're
to.
busy.
But this is important. I like to be here.
Yeah, of course. Now, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, whatever you're into, whatever you celebrate. I hope you just have a
Yeah,
great end of the
likewise.
year, right? Because, you know, everybody takes it day by day, and to see projects like this, I want to see it fulfilled. So, you know,
Thank
good
you.
luck, good health, and thank you again. Thank you.
Likewise, and happy holidays. Yeah. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye. Have a good
Like, we're trying to be the cheap one, but also like like royalty free doesn't necessarily always have like the best like brand value connotations. You know what I mean? Like, people might assume it's like not good. Um,
I
but
mean, you know,
hopefully people get that it's like a fun joke and we're really putting a lot into it.
I'm someone who tries to experience things before I judge them, like, all media or
Yeah.
just anything. So like when I said something like your game reminds me of a Flash game, I hope you didn't maybe take offense to that, because I think that like the Flash games are
No,
like
I didn't.
a side of gaming media that's not talked about, because it was that indie, that was the first indie, the
Right.
Flash games and all that stuff with like maybe Kaizo Mario, or I was a big Math is Fun type stuff, those browser Flash games. And your game has that like artistic or like technical feel where it looks like that, but it
Yeah.
still plays like a platform brawler. So like to me, that is something that was already like so nostalgic, where I was like, I'm already gonna try it. Like, forget the
Sweet.
royalty free stuff, but like your game looked awesome. It looked fun.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's kind of like the idea is like there is this inclination. So speaking on the idea that people might think it's like cheap is like speaking on that inclination that I totally fumbled the beginning of that sentence. My
Nah,
point
nah, I
is
get you.
there's a lot of different things about it that are like quality. People sometimes ask like, well, why would you not like why is Dorothy a dog? Why is Sweeney Todd a robot? Like you should be making these characters exactly the way people expect them to be. But then it's like, well, where's the fun in that? Why would anyone buy it then? Because everyone's already doing that, and multiverses gets shut down. Nick falls off after like a month or two to like $15 all the time, and like no one's hitting that like cartoon brawler like right, and they're all doing it with the characters exactly as we expect them to be.
Yeah,
So
man, you said it.
there's yeah.
You know, I think that like these games where like honestly, your game could go like free to play at some point, and like that's not a bad thing to say. I hope that like you don't take offense to that. I don't think your game
No,
is
I don't.
like worthy of that only, and not
I think
worthy
it's
of more
important to
money.
consider a bunch of different models.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because
Because
I
I
don't know
just
if
think
there's
as
like a
many
way
people
to
as
set it up
possible, of
like, hey,
course.
it's free to play with you can choose three characters that you could play as, and then if you want to play everybody else, you have to pay the full price of the game. I don't know if there's like a
Yeah.
way to set that up, but
Well,
no, like I think it's a totally valid point.
have you ever played the 2013 version of Killer Instinct that came out?
No,
No?
right,
So, yeah, it's just I understand it's a very hard thing to balance, like a full price game with all the accoutrements that people might expect, while also being like, not fully able to bring that out into, fruition. It's definitely a hard thing to balance.
right, yeah. I'm optimistic that we'll get there to be able to make more informed decisions like that in the future. with like whether it's DLC or a new game or a new spin-off or something. Like this is again very first time, so kind of just hoped that the 15 was sort of the sweet spot where we could discount it or something
No,
to
absolutely.
a point where if it wasn't selling, it would start to.
Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, I had fun with it. That's all I could say for somebody who's been
Thank
playing
you.
platform fighters for his whole life. I love playing all of them, right? It's just for other, like, we're talking about people able to use like properties that were already making money for 20 years. But now, when anybody wants to try and do it with things that don't make money for any time, right? People might have a problem with it.
Right.
So I just want to give love and support where it's due for people trying to put out something that's going to be fun because it is fun. That is a
Thank you.
platform fighter through and through. So like all the bells and whistles that people might expect for a platform fighter, it has like an online component. It has right couch co-op. You could just plug in your controllers for the Steam version, which is
Yep.
already pretty cool. Music, characters, the full package is there, and I hope to see this game grow. And for you guys, whether quadruple A games does anything else or continues with this, I want the best. That's just, really
Thank
just
you.
it. Of course, it was
Yeah. Thank
really
you
great
very
talking
much.
to you, Colin.
Yeah. Please stay in touch.
I will try. Follow the podcast if you want. I try to read all kinds of stuff. If you
Yeah.
like manga, anime, movies, I just watched the new Frankenstein Guillermo del Toro movie that came out, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
thinking
I've been
like
meaning to see that.
it was cool. It was a good one.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
it's like it's got a long run time, so it hasn't like really fit into my days yet. But
I getcha.
um, always important to see new takes on that one.